So I hope you were successful. This is the array of servers. Now let's start by creating a new component first. This is the server.view file. And I will copy my servers view file in there, remove this object though, and also remove the unordered list and the wrapping div. I only want to have the list item here. I'll leave the class, I'll remove the for loop, and now I only want to output the ID here. Well, for that I will need my default object and set up some props because the ID shall be passed in from outside, from my servers.view file. Here I'll know I get the ID. So in the servers.view file here, I want to remove the list item here. Instead, I want to import the component I just created in the server.view file without the S. I'll name it server from /server.view. And then I'll set it up as a local component in my object here. So under components, I'll register it with a selector of app server, which remember I can use with app-server in the template then if I want. So assign the server I'm importing to it. And therefore I can use app server here like this, or if I prefer that with a dash in between, app server. And I want to pass the ID to that. Now in order to be able to pass an ID, I first need to loop through it. So with v4, I'll loop through my server in servers, where servers of course refers to the servers property in the data field here. And since I do that, I can then pass an ID to each component which gets created throughout this loop, where I want to set ID equal to server.id, accessing the individual objects here through which I'm looping, and then the ID field in each object in each, loop iteration. With this, I am creating a couple of servers, we're seeing it here, and I'm outputting the IDs. That's the first step. Now I also want to be able to click on a server to load the details here in the other component. Well, to be able to click on a server, I will add a click listener to this list item. And to see this hand cursor symbol, I will simply add the cursor pointer style to that. That's not Vue.js, that's normal CSS and HTML. So here I will then listen to a click and execute server selected, let's say. Therefore, we should add a method here in the methods object. Server selected would be the name of the method which I'm executing up there. And here I want to inform the parent that a server was selected. What do I want to do with that information? I want to change my server details. Now, for that to be changed, informing these servers, which is the parent of the individual server, is not enough, because server detail lives in the app.view file. So I could go from server with a custom event to servers with a custom event to app. And I need to do this because custom events don't propagate up. But that's not what I want to do. I will use a bus instead. So here I will export a constant and I'll name it server bus, which is a new Vue instance. And then in my server file here, I will import this server bus. Here the naming is of course important because I named it in the main.js file too. It has a name there. And I need to import that from going up one folder, and going up another folder from the main.js file. And with that in here, I can call server bus $emit, and I want to emit an event here. I will name it server selected, and I will pass the ID. So this ID referring to the ID I'm getting here as a prop. Now with the event being emitted here, I can go to the server details where I want to import this server bus as well, because here is the place where I want to change something. So I'll import this from the main.js file too. And then in the object I have here, I also need the created lifecycle hook to then listen to server bus on, so with the on method, to listen to the server selected event. And then I want to change some data. So here I will add the data property, which again is a function returning me the data object. And here I want to set up the server which is loaded. And this is null at the beginning because it's undefined. We haven't loaded a server yet. And here in the callback, I want to set this and I want to get the new server as an argument, and therefore set this server equal to server. That will then allow me to access things like the server status and ID. Now, to do that, however, I need to go back to server, and here I only get the ID passed in as a prop. Well, let's change this. Let's instead get the whole server and output server.id instead here in the template. And for this to work, I need to go to my servers component here too, and not only pass the ID, but the whole server in each loop iteration, this whole server object. With that in place, I'm now outputting it here, or I'm getting it here to my server details correctly. And whenever I select a server, server is set to something else. And this allows me to override this template, add a new paragraph where I use VIII to check if server is actually set. And if it is not set, I want to say, please select a server. And otherwise, I can use VElse if this is the case, if a server is selected. I say server number, and then we set server ID, selected, status, and then output the server status. So if that was too fast, what I did is in the server component, I implemented a method to, well, basically listen to clicks on this list item where I emit the server selected event on my server bus. The server bus is set up here in the main.js file. And with that server selected event, I want to pass, well, not the ID, but the server. This needs to be adjusted. The server is a prop I'm getting set from outside. It gets set here in the servers view file where I loop through all these servers and create the app server component. This is the one living in the server.view file. And I pass the server of the current loop iteration with the server props I set up there. This props. So this is set in this loop where I loop through my array of servers. With this setup, we still see all these servers, but if I click on one, we see it now changes to the server we actually selected. The missing piece now is a button on the right, which allows me to change the server status back to normal. Now, to change the server status back to normal, I will go to my server details component, and there I will add a horizontal line, say change to normal on a button I added, and here I want to execute or listen to a click event and set reset status, for example. Add this in the methods object I have to add to my Vue instance therefore. So here I have reset status as a method. And in here, I can do it very, very easily by simply saying this server status equals normal. Now you might say, okay, and now we need to pass it back and update it in this array of servers here, but we don't. Keep in mind, this is an object. And I said earlier, objects are reference types. Therefore, the objects in this array only exist once each, one place in memory for each of these objects. Now, when I pass them to another component, it's still the same object. I'm only copying the pointer to this place in memory. Hence, if I added my server in such a component like here in the server detail component, it still edits the same place in memory. You will see this in action here. If I click on any server, critical here, I change it to normal, I navigate away and I select server 2 again, it's still normal because it was edited in this array because server or because this object is a reference type. That was a rather long exercise, but we practiced a lot of the things we saw in this lecture. I hope you feel confident using props and custom events and event buses to communicate across components and manage your state and pairs data. With that, let's move on.